Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lyndhurst Community News. Today is Wednesday, May 7th. How time is flying. I apologize for not having done the news in the past couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, there hadn't been anything really to report, and I don't believe in just doing a show just for the sake of it. I like to report on interesting things and activities around town, and there's always so much going on, but sometimes it gets quiet. And last week, as you mostly probably know, if you don't, my brother, Paul, passed away unexpectedly at the age of 65, and needless to say, it was quite a shock for the family. And I'm going to do a tribute to him later in the show, as well as Judge James A. Breslin, Jr., who also passed away last week. So we lost two legendary people of the community. So I definitely want to talk about that. But before I do that, I do want to get through some of the news that I have here. Now, this first piece is actually quite fitting for my brother because it's about the fire department, one of his most devoted parts of his life. But anyway, so the Lyndhurst Historical Society is having an exhibit called The History of the Lyndhurst Fire Department. It's going to be on June 1st from 12 to 4 p.m., and the rain date will be June 8th the following week. Now, it's going to feature the 1920 antique fire truck that we've all seen in the parades around town. It is originally ours. It's not like we got it from somewhere. That was actually our fire truck from the beginning. So among that display, there's going to be a smokehouse and a demonstration of the equipment that is used by firefighters. So this is a great thing for the kids if you want to have something to do during the day with the children, and I'm sure everybody who has children does. So come on down to the Lyndhurst Historical Society. That's the Little Red Schoolhouse. That's at 400 Riverside Avenue. And again, June 8th from 12 to 4 with the rain date. I'm sorry, nope. June 1st from 12 to 4 with a rain date of June 8th at the same time. This past Saturday, the American Legion Post 139 had its annual scholarship beefsteak, which was a huge success. We did very well. We had about 82 people, which was very good, considering that there's so many things that go on, especially this time of the year. But I want to let you know that the American Legion Post is always open every day from 3 o'clock onward, 7 days a week, and that's at 217 Webster Avenue. But I wanted to let you know that on Saturday, May 17th, from 4 to 7 p.m., come on down and have a filet mignon dinner. So the dinner will include a filet mignon, a baked potato, as well as corn on the cob. Now, all of this for $25, and that includes one beverage of your choice. So, again, all the things that we do at the Legion are designed to raise money for scholarships. So all proceeds always benefit scholarships for graduating Lyndhurst seniors. So come on and check it out. It's a great place, especially during sports season. It's like a sports bar downstairs. There's about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 televisions. And there's always something going on down there. And it's a great place for all the locals and everybody comes down. I mean, if you're related to a military member, please join the Sons of the Legion. If your father or grandfather was a veteran, that's what I am. I'm a Son of the Legion. I also serve as the vice commander of the Sons of the American Legion. So come on down as our guest and enjoy this. But here's the thing. If you want to come for the filet mignon dinner, you have to purchase them no later than this coming Monday, May 12th. Obviously, because we need to know how much filet mignon and how much corn and how many baked potatoes we need. So make sure you let us know. Stop in anytime. Now, here's something that I received earlier, but unfortunately, as I said, having not been able to do a show last week, I couldn't report on it in time because the RSVP for this was May 1st, so it has passed. But Carol Regano of the Lyndhurst Lyndhurst Humane Society sent me a notice that they're having a kitten shower and fundraiser this Saturday from 1 to 5 p.m. It's going to be down at the Lyndhurst Community Center at 255 Riverside Avenue. Tickets would be $20. As I say, unfortunately, the RSVP has passed. There will be a light buffet and an afternoon fun with challenging games, prizes, and all-around fun. And they also welcome any, gift cards or things from Amazon, and bring food like Friskies canned food, KMR kitten milk replacer. So you could bring things down there still and drop them off. Hill's dry kitten food, Snuggle Safe heating pad, a Purina, Panorama cat pillows, anything for cats. So even if you couldn't have the chance to RSVP, if you have something, you can certainly drop it off. Obviously, they're always looking for donations because the Humane Society operates on donations. So that's, again, this Saturday, a kitten shower and fundraiser by the Lyndhurst Humane Society of Bergen County. So that's really all I've got. There are other things out there. I just haven't had the chance really to sit down and compile it as I usually do. Understandably, last week was shocking, overwhelming, and I frankly couldn't keep up with the phone calls and the texts and the messages from so many people as the news was spreading about my brother. Now, those of you who knew my brother, especially those of you from town who maybe grew up with my brother, if you remember, at the age of 10, while most boys were out doing other things, he was chasing fire trucks. So back then we would have the fire horn, and the number of times that it would go off, how it would go, how many times the horn would fire, you would count and you would know the location of the fire. That's how they got the messaging out there years ago. Now, of course, by that time they did have pagers, but nevertheless, he would get on his bike and pedal to the fire. And he was always hanging around the firehouse. As a teenager, that was like his second home. Now, when he was also at that young age of 10, my father bought him his first CB radio, and that started a whole thing for my brother. It was anybody who knew my brother knew that he always had a radio on him. It led to his eventually co-founding 52 years ago what later became known as Jersey Coastal Alert Emergency Services. Now, what they would do back then, before cell phones, they would monitor CB Channel 9, which was the emergency channel. I don't know if it still is because I don't know who still uses CB radios. Maybe truckers do, but so if a trucker observed an accident or a broken down car, they would give the location on CB Channel 9. They would say, breaker Channel 9, emergency, and then that's why personal conversations were always asked to please go to another channel. And they would then, my brother and his group, including me, when I was 10, he was teaching me how to do this. I would monitor CB Channel 9. And I knew what to say, and he taught me what to do. Once you get the location of the accident or the broken down car or whatever the emergency is, you would then call the appropriate authorities. And I remember he had all these books in his drawer that I would open up, and I don't remember how to do it now, but I knew how to do it then, and I would get the appropriate phone number, whether it was the state police, county police, or whatever authority it was, and we would radio in the emergency. And he did that for years with his organization. And his communications room in his home was like something out of NASA. You would never believe anything like it. In fact, when they renovated the Lyndhurst police desk about 20 years ago or so, maybe more than that, he actually took the old console and he had it all redone, and that now sits in his communications room down at his house with more radios than you could imagine that do things that none of us even understand. Now, he also served... He joined the fire department at the age of 19, but before that, he was also on the Lyndhurst Police Emergency Squad. And his whole life was devoted to service, whether it was saving lives, rescuing people. And his love for radio and communications was beyond belief. He was, by all accounts, an electronics and communications genius. There would be people from all over the country who would contact him, reach out to him with questions about whatever the case may be regarding a radio or a communication system. And without ever having to think or research it, he always had the answer immediately. And then at the age of, I think it was 21, he became a Lyndhurst police officer, and that was in 1981 in the springtime. And I remember being so excited because having a big brother who was a police officer was very exciting for me. So for years, as a fireman, police officer, first responder, and communications expert, he then also redesigned the communications center in Town Hall for our emergency services. And I want to say that he did it at no cost to the township. For years, he handled all of the communications and radio installations and issues and upgrades and fixes for the township, for the police department, for the fire department, for the DPW, and he never accepted a dime, which was so typical of my brother. His love of cigarettes and coffee, that was his hallmark, and when he wasn't in his uniform, he always wore his signature T-shirt, jeans, and work boots. And we all know that his second home was the Colonial Diner, where he was a staple at the counter every single day, where everyone knew him and chatted with him. If there was something going on, emergency or weather-wise, everyone always asked Paul, and he always knew what was going on. Now, we were all incredibly touched at the incredible number of people who stood in line for over 45 minutes to pay their respects. There were countless people I had never known who were weeping bitterly and who told me of the many kindnesses he had shared with them. His funeral was attended by and assisted by over 20 different police and fire agencies from around the state, giving him an incredible send-off, which he so greatly deserved. The procession included his famous yellow Amarillo truck, which everybody knows, which served as the flower car. Now, his son Paul is keeping the truck, and you're going to see it in parades and sometimes even on display at the Colonial Diner in his parking spot, where they have his picture, of course, and there his legacy will never be forgotten. Now, I could talk a great deal at length, of course, about my brother. He was a big brother to me, being 11 and a half years older than I. And I'll never forget, again, how excited I was being his younger brother because it was so much excitement. It was better than a TV show. Police, fire, emergency, weather. And I'll always remember, as a child, watching classic TV with him, because it was he who introduced me to The Honeymooners and The Odd Couple, Gilligan's Island, and all of the great classics. We would watch them together. And Paul, in his quiet, unassuming way, he was a powerhouse of love and devotion to every area of public safety. And his memory is going to live on in the hearts of all of those who knew and loved him. And we're going to miss you, my dear brother. I love you, and may you rest in peace, and may your memory live forever. And, of course, as if last week wasn't shocking enough, we also learned of the passing of James A. Breslin, Jr., better known to his friends, of course, as Jimmy Breslin. Now, what makes this even more touching is that Jimmy was a very close friend of my father's. They were together every day. And Jimmy's father, James A. Breslin, Sr., was also very close friends with my grandfather, Nick Carella. And both of whom had served under John Breslin, Jimmy Breslin Sr.'s father, who was the prosecutor of Bergen County. So when John Breslin became prosecutor in 1934, he appointed my grandfather, who was 27, as assistant prosecutor. And then in the second term, he also brought on his brother, James Breslin Sr., and a couple of other prosecutors, and they were friends for years. Now, Jimmy Breslin was from an old Lyndhurst family, going way back with our family. We've been family, generational friends. And the Breslins were so many lawyers in that family. It was pretty amazing. And Jimmy, of course, took over his father's practice and later became the municipal court judge. That's why he was always known as the judge. And having attended his wake, talking to so many of the people there, especially the police officers, the retired police officers, always said how Jimmy was a wonderful judge. He was pro-police, but he was always fair in the way he ruled on his law. And Jimmy also had an incredibly dry sense of humor. He was hysterical to be around. I just remember laughing to the point where my stomach would hurt with him. He was that funny. And after that, after being municipal court judge for 25 years, he served also as the Board of Adjustment attorney for the township until 2019, when sadly his health no longer permitted him to continue working. He was an integral part of the town's history and community. Very proud of his work and dedication to his career and his family. He was always a volunteer in town as well. He coached both Little League baseball and basketball, and he was a very active member of the Lyndhurst Elks Club, 1505. He served as their exalted ruler, as did his father as well. And in his free time, he loved to swim, he loved to garden, he loved to spend time with his family, and to watch his children and grandchildren participate in their various sporting events. something he loved. And anyone who knew Jimmy knew that if you couldn't find him, he was on the golf course. He loved golf. That was his passion outside of law. And his heaven on earth was in Pinehurst, North Carolina, where every year he visited with his friends for an annual golf trip. So that was that. We lost two greats last week, and I hope we're going to get a break from now. But either way, I will be back with the news on a regular basis, as long as there is news. By the Concert Under the Stars, by the way, folks, that's been posted. I'll update with you that next week, only because we got plenty of time till that happens. Plus, the Memorial Day Parade is coming up. I'll update you on that next week, because, again, we've got some time. So, as I always remind you, and in the history and the spirit of our wonderful volunteer fire department, which included my brother Paul, always check the batteries on your smoke detectors and on your CO2 detectors. And if they're old, get a new one. Get new ones, because now the batteries are built in, because these things save lives. And my brother was always about saving lives, as are all of our volunteers and first responders in this town. So we're going to end with the background music. As I said, my brother's responsible for the love of my life here, the Honeymooners. And every time I hear this song, it brings me right back to being a child and watching it with him. All right, everybody. God bless you all. We have an election coming up this coming Tuesday. Don't forget to vote. We'll have the results for you next week. Until then, this is Brian Haggerty saying, God bless you all, and God bless our community.